Hello, happy Friday! We are on to chapter 10, which is called Plain Sailing. Elliot expected something incredibly dramatic to happen when Virgo was banned from her powers. He waited for the sparks to fly, for her body to be beamed up in a ray of light before being cast to the ground, a broken shadow of her starry self. But in fact, she only had to sign a few forms and hand over the keys to the stationery cupboard. Elliot didn't know what to say as they walked away from the clouds. "I'm sorry you're in trouble," he finally offered. "The council has spoken," said Virgo sadly, "and the council is always right. A right bunch of it's my fault. If I had obeyed the rules, none of this would have happened. Everything was perfect before. So why did you leave?" "Because I wanted to experience a different perfect, that's all. I never thought it would come to this. Look, I'm sorry about your problems, and I'm glad you saved my life and everything, but I really need to get home to Mum. Let's get into your whizzy starball thing and get back to the farm." "There is no whizzy starball thing now," Virgo sighed. "You heard them. I can't use my constellation powers or they'll take my cardia, and I'll become a pathetic, simple, and pointless mortal, just like you." "Sounds terrible," said Elliot. They came to the beautiful river that lapped gently against the bank of the clouds. Virgo pursed her lips to a whistle, but all that came out of her mouth was a shower of spit. "Ugh, gross," grumbled Elliot, wiping off his t-shirt. "What are you doing?" "Hailing public transport." "Ugh. Here, let me." Elliot put his thumb and forefinger into his mouth and let out a perfect whistle. He and Mum had spent hours practicing it, along with loads of other useful tricks, including pickpocketing, semaphore, starting a fire, and burping the alphabet. "Try again," said Virgo impatiently. "This is so archaic." But before Elliot could give another blast, he was knocked flying by a huge wave that suddenly burst out of the river. As he spluttered and choked, Elliot mopped the wet hair from his eyes to see what had caused this unexpected tsunami. "At last," said Virgo, who was completely dry. "It's here." Rocked by its own waves in the middle of the river was a long wooden boat. At the prow was a carving of a ferocious lion, and at the stern a serpent's winding tail. A pair of wooden oars balanced the boat on the river, and a black sail hung from the tall mast, concealing the identity of the sailor. "Hello, Charon," yelled Virgo. "Room for two?" The black sail was drawn aside, and Elliot tried not to stare at the individual before him. The man, if that's what he was deathly white, almost transparent. His stringy yellow hair hung limply down to his chin, and a pair of pale grey eyes stared out of their dark sockets. His short figure was swathed in a rough brown robe, his dirty, veiny hands jutting from the sleeves. Charon raised his finger and pointed straight at Elliot's heart. "Come hither, mortal," he said in a shaky, high-pitched voice, "if you dare to ride the ship of death." Elliot decided that he didn't dare at all. "Don't be ridiculous, Charon," snapped Virgo. "Whatever do you mean, Lady Virgo?" trembled Charon, shifting awkwardly in the boat. "You sound like you've sat on a mouse. Use your real voice, for goodness sake." "All right, darling, you got me," chortled Charon, several octaves lower. "Sorry, mate, don't usually come north of the river. The tourists love all that stuff. Hop in." Elliot waited for Charon to whip off his disguise, but it appeared that the boatman was unfortunate enough to really look that way. He tentatively walked up the gangplank as Charon assumed his position at the oars. "Welcome aboard, mate," said Charon, with something that was presumably a smile. "I'm Charon, proprietor of Quick Sticks Cabs. You won't wait an eternity for us. Made that up myself." "Well done," said Elliot uncertainly, taking his place on a narrow bench next to a particularly pungent sandwich. "We need to get back to Elliot's farm. Elliot looked to Elliot for instructions. "You tell him. Charon can find anyone or anything." "Done the eternal knowledge," said Charon proudly, tapping his head. "I can get you anywhere." "Home farm? Little Motbury? Wiltshire? England? The earth?" said Elliot, unsure how much detail an immortal cab driver needed. "What river's it on?" asked Charon. Near the Avon," said Elliot. "Righto, we'll take the Severn, the wise murder at this time of day. Hold on, and off we go." And with an almighty tug of the oars, Charon eased the boat away from the bank and started along the glistening water. It was a nice change of pace after a hectic morning, although Elliot was worried that Mum had been on her own for too long. He hadn't even made her lunch, and if she went looking for him... "Excuse me, Charon, how long will it take, please?" he asked the oarsman. "2 shakes of a sphinx's tail," Charon assured him. "We'll have you home for lunch." And, how exactly are we going to row through the sky? Asked Elliot casually. We're on the River Styx, said Virgo. The Styx? Said Elliot. The thing you swear your oaths on? Yes, said Virgo. It's a sacred river. If you break an oath sworn on the Styx, you lose your cardia. Then you spend a year unable to speak or move and are denied any nectar or ambrosia. For the next 9 years, no immortal can speak to you, and then you are banished from immortal society to be lonely and desolate outcast until you die. It's also a nightmare trying to get to a library card, said Charon. The Styx is the boundary between Elysium and Earth, Virgo continued. All the rivers on Earth run into it at some point, just below the Earth's surface, making it a very convenient way for immortals to get around unnoticed. Think of the world like a dirty great onion, Charon chipped in. Elysium is like the skin, circling all around it above the clouds. Next realm in is the Earth. You know all about that one. Inside that you have the asphodel fields, and then the underworld. Each realm is reached by crossing a river. They run like a corkscrew through the world, and Charon is the only way to move between them, said Virgo. And not everyone can get everywhere, said Charon, apart from me. And constellations, of course, Miss Virgo. All other immortals have restrictions, said Virgo smugly. Gods aren't allowed into the underworld. Elementals can't visit Elysium. Accessing a forbidden realm costs an immortal their cardia. Why can't everyone just go where they want? Asked Elliot. Don't be ridiculous, snorted Virgo, because then everyone would want to live in the best places. So, said Elliot, why can't they? Of course, it's all a conspiracy, said Charon. Oh, don't start, Charon, huffed Virgo. Not everything is a conspiracy. That's what they want you to believe, whispered Charon, tapping the side of his nose. But I'm in the know. You're in cloud cuckoo land, Charon, said Virgo with a shake of her silver head. No, I'm not, said the oarsman defensively. Besides, that's 637 miles due west, straight through the Northern Lights and second after Dorking. Nah, we've all been fed a big pile of centaur droppings over the years. Say the creation story. If you really think that Uranus, Elliot zoned Charon out and looked over at Virgo staring mournfully out of the boat. What are you going to do? He asked her. You heard them. I have to recapture the prisoner 42. How? I have no idea, said Virgo heavily. And Theseus slaying a Minotaur? Do me a favour, Charon scoffed. That boy couldn't win a food fight. Tell me something, Elliot began. If prisoner 42 isn't a demon, why did he have their cardia? Maybe it was just dirty, muttered Virgo. I don't know. You heard Pisces. There's no way that prisoner 42 can be Thanatos. He's dead. No, he's not, announced Charon suddenly. Why do you say that? Asked Elliot. He's talking rubbish. Have you not studied our history? Said Virgo grandly. My mum said history is only what the winners wrote down, said Elliot. Hold on a mo. We're at Earth Junction, said Charon, pulling onto the riverbank. Got some more punters to pick up. Until that moment, Elliot had thought that the strangest passengers he'd ever seen were on a London bus. He had read about some of the creatures he now saw. There were two young goblins sniggering as they blew bubblegum into the centaur's tail, while a half-man, half-goat, Elliot remembered that this was a satire, was annoying an elderly fairy by playing heavy metal music on the panpipes. Do you mind? The fairy huffed, pointing to a sign with crossed-out panpipes on the mast. Whatevs, muttered the satyr, as he plugged some headphones into the pipes and returned to his thrash panpipe solo. Ugh, elementals, Virgo tutted disapprovingly under her breath. The boat pulled away from the shore, and Charon regained his easy rhythm with the oars. So, Thanatos, he went on plainly. He's alive all right. Must be. What are you talking about? Said a weary Virgo. Now listen, I'm as neutral as Mongolia living room in Switzerland. I don't play for any of the teams, see? Charon held out his cardia, which was made of glass. I get on fine with all sides, and none of their powers work on neutrals, so I can do what I like, he said. But if you believe that Zeus killed Thanatos, you're blinder than a cyclops with an eye patch. And Charon, you are full of poop as King Augeas' stables, Virgo scoffed. I don't know what happened, said Charon, but I'd bet my 11th toe it was something dodgy. Back in the day, I used to ferry the souls of the dead to the underworld, mortals and immortals. Made a tidy living. The dead used to be buried with a coin in their mouth to pay my fare. No one does that anymore. I blame contactless. There was a kerfuffle at the back of the boat as the centaur put his hind legs on the seat next to the fairy. Do you mind? She said haughtily, nodding towards another sign saying, Please keep your hoofs off the seat. So where did you take Thanatos? Asked Elliot. That's my point, Charon insisted. I didn't. I escorted every dead soul in those days, including Erebus after Zeus killed him. But I never saw Thanatos. And if he's out, he'll be heading straight for his Chaos Stones. He loves them like a dung beetle loves diarrhea. What are they like? Asked Elliot. Well, they're small black beetles that like dung, said Charon. The Chaos Stones, said Elliot. Oh, them, said Charon. Cool, they're a sight. The four most beautiful jewels you'll see. The Firestone is a boundless sapphire, the Waterstone a dead red ruby, and the Earthstone a beautiful emerald, and the Earthstone a brilliant diamond. Hang on, said Elliot, picturing the stones. They're all the wrong colours. Chaos, Thanatos' gran, who created the stones at the dawn of the universe, was an almighty goddess with the power to produce day and night, explained Charon. Unfortunately, the old dear was as colourblind as a short-sighted bat in sunglasses. If you control the stones, you control the elements, not to mention becoming as rich as King Midas, before he invested all his wealth in seafront property in Atlantis. Elliot's ears pricked up. Rich? He asked. How? Trying to sound casual. It's that Earthstone, said Charon. Think about it. If you control the earth, you can find oil, gold, buried treasure. You'd be minted in a minute. And where are they now? Asked Elliot more keenly. Zeus must have them, said Charon, unless he lost them in one of his divorces. A mobile phone rang through the boat. The fairy carefully opened her handbag and gently pulled out the phone. She elegantly cleared her throat and answered the calls. Hello, she yelled at the top of her lungs. I can't talk now. I'm on the ship of the death. Do you mind? Said all the other passengers in unison, drawing her attention to a sign showing a fairy shouting down a mobile phone in a prohibitive red circle. Elliot's mind was whirring. A magical diamond that could make him instantly rich. A diamond that could help him pay off the debt and save his home. A diamond that was... A diamond? Now that was a diamond he needed to find. So, Zeus is still alive? Elliot asked. Of course he is, duh, sighed Virgo. And whoever this prisoner is, you're going to need some help catching him. Puh, you offering? Said Virgo condescendingly. Maybe, said Elliot, a vision dancing in his head of the top of the range games console he was going to buy with the treasure the Earthstone would reveal. But you also need someone with experience, someone who knows Prisoner 42, someone who has caught him before. Virgo looked as though she'd been hit by a thunderbolt. Oh my gods, she gasped. Zeus! He imprisoned him one time. He can do it again. That's the best idea I've ever had. Excuse me, said Elliot. Charon, where can I find Zeus? Asked Virgo. I haven't seen him for a day or two, but Zeus doesn't blow his nose without his son Hermes bringing in the hanky, Charon put in. This time of day, Hermes will be in that Cafe Hero in Asphodel Fields having one of their fancy coffees. Then let's go, beamed Virgo. Wait a minute. I need to get home, said Elliot. We're coming up to the junction with the Avon, said Charon. Am I taking you home, or are we going to find Hermes? Will it take long? Asked Elliot, weighing up leaving his mum alone against the prospect of finding the Earthstone. Not at all, said Virgo, finally brightening up. We'll have Thanatos back in prison by tea time. This is all going to work out perfectly. Well, said Charon to Elliot. To the Asphodel Fields, said Elliot, reassuring himself that today was no different from leaving Mum on a school day. This was his best chance of saving home farm. We've got some gods to find. The boat continued its descent along the Styx, the bright colours of the earth starting to blur as if someone was rubbing them out with a giant eraser. The scenery faded slowly away until there was nothing but grey, foggy cloud. The boat sailed into a long, gloomy tunnel. Next stop, announced Charon as they came to a halt underground. Archeron Junction, a light here for Asphodel Fields. Please ensure you take all personal belongings and limbs with you. Thanks, said Elliot. No problem, said Charon. He looked down at the abacus at the front of the boat. That'll be 3,000 drachma, he said cheerily. Virgo looked at Elliot, who looked blankly back. What? He said. Well, I haven't got any money, she said. I've never needed it before. You'll have to pay him. I'm sorry, said Elliot to Charon, rummaging around in his pocket and producing the £3.67 he had stashed there earlier in the day and a random button. This is all I have. Charon's eyes became the size of saucers. Wow, he whispered. Can I? Can I really? Of course, said Elliot, trying not to wince at the thought of losing his entire week's spending money. But as Charon withdrew his hand, Elliot saw that the boatman had only taken the button. "Mortal treasure," he said. "I collect this stuff. I've not seen a blue one before." "Are you sure?" said Elliot, uncomfortable at cheating the man who might have just solved all his financial worries. "Oh, I'm not trying to rip you off, mate. That includes the tip," said Charon, still staring at his fare. "Well, great. Keep the change," said Elliot, bemused for the umpteenth time that day. "And here," said Charon, fishing around in his pocket, producing a small piece of parchment. "Here's my card if you ever need me. Just drop this in the nearest water and I'll come and find you." "See you, Charon," said Virgo, as she and Elliot walked into the gloom. "Ta-ra, kids," he said, pulling out a newspaper in the sandwich with something horrible wiggling inside it. "Zodiac Council pledges more free centaur schools," he read on the front page. "Believe that, you'll believe anything." A short while later, a card floated down the river to announce a new job. Charon picked it out of the murky water. "Well, I'll be," he said, taking the oars in his gnarled hands. Charon rowed back along the Styx, this time taking the River Avon, turning towards the Stonehenge. A few moments later, he saw his passenger lurking in the cloud fog that hung over the riverbank. "Hello, Charon," came a drawling voice. "Blimey," said Charon. "Your ears must have been burning. I was only just talking about you. Long time no see." "Too long," said Thanatos, taking his seat as the boat pulled away from the bank. "But I can promise you this. You'll be seeing a lot more of me from now on." Okay. Right. So that's it. We have made it through week 1. Well done, team. Have a lovely weekend, and I will see you on Monday for chapter 11.